The fluorescent lights above operating room 7 flickered twice before the soldier's hand shot up and grabbed the scalpel midair. Blood poured from the shrapnel wounds across his chest, pooling on the sterile table, but his grip didn't waver. He pressed the blade against Dr. Victor Hale's throat hard enough to draw a thin red line. "Move that instrument 1 more inch," the soldier rasped, each word costing him oxygen he didn't have. "And I'll open your carotid before I bleed out." The surgical team froze. Monitors screamed. The man was dying, anyone could see that, but his eyes burned with the kind of focus that came from killing people for a living. "Get me Nora Blake," he whispered, blood bubbling at the corner of his mouth. "The night nurse. 3rd floor. Now." Dr. Hale's face went white. "A nurse? You're having a psychotic break." The blade bit deeper. "Her, or you die with me." If you want to see how the most invisible woman in a Chicago hospital became the only person who could stop a war, stick with me until the end. Like this video, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Because what happened next at Ravencrest Medical Center didn't just save one life, it exposed a lie so big it burned through 3 governments and a private army. And it all started with a woman nobody respected. Nora Blake had been replacing bedpans on the 3rd floor when the code trauma alert tore through the hospital intercom. She barely looked up. Codes happened. Doctors ran. Nurses scrambled. She kept working. At 43 years old, Nora had perfected the art of being overlooked. Average height, graying brown hair pulled into a practical bun. Scrubs that fit loose enough to hide everything. She moved through Ravencrest Medical Center like weather, constant, necessary, invisible. "Nora, they're asking for more hands in the ER," a younger nurse called from the hallway, not bothering to slow down. "I'll finish here first." "Suit yourself." The younger nurses didn't wait for her anymore. Nora was slow. Nora was cautious. Nora asked too many questions and never pushed back when someone with a louder voice overrode her. She'd been passed over for promotions 4 times in 6 years. The last time, they'd given the position to someone with half her experience and twice her confidence. Her supervisor had said it gently. "You're excellent technically, Nora, but leadership requires presence, visibility. Translation, you're forgettable." She'd nodded, smiled, gone back to work. Because that was safer than the alternative. The intercom crackled again. "All available personnel to Trauma Bay 1. Repeat, all available personnel." Nora finished her charting, washed her hands, and took the stairs down. Not running, never running. She'd learned a long time ago that urgency drew attention. When she pushed through the double doors into the ER, chaos had already set in. Paramedics shouted handoff reports. Residents scrambled. A nurse she didn't recognize slammed a crash cart into position. And in the center of it all, on a gurney slick with blood, lay a man who looked like he'd been dragged out of a war zone. Mid-30s, military build, tactical pants shredded. His chest was a mess, shrapnel wounds, deep lacerations, burns across his left shoulder. But his eyes were open, alert, scanning. GSW to the abdomen, multiple penetrating trauma, possible internal bleeding. A paramedic rattled off, but the patient cut him off. "No." The word came out quiet, but absolute. "Doctor." Victor Hale swept in, already snapping gloves on. Hale was Ravencrest's chief of trauma surgery. Tall, sharp-featured, the kind of man who wore his credentials like armor. He had a reputation for brilliance and a bigger one for arrogance. "Start 2 large-bore IVs, type and cross for 6 units. Get me a portable X-ray." I said no. The soldier's voice was stronger now, dangerous. Hale didn't even glance at him. "You're in shock. We're taking you to surgery." "You're not touching me." That got Hale's attention. He looked down at the patient with the kind of irritation usually reserved for people who didn't understand how hospitals worked. "Sir, you're bleeding internally. Without intervention, you'll be dead in an hour." "Then I'll die on my terms." The room went silent. Hale's jaw tightened. "Sedate him." "Do it, and I'll kill you." It wasn't a threat, it was information. One of the nurses stepped back. A resident's hand hovered over a syringe, unsure. Hale leaned in, his voice dropping to something colder. "You're confused, delirious. We're trying to save your life." The soldier's hand moved faster than anyone expected, snapping up, closing around the scalpel on the tray beside him, and pressing it to Hale's throat in one fluid motion. Blood dripped from the patient's arm. His breathing was shallow, but his grip was rock steady. "I want Nora Blake," he said. "Third floor night nurse. Bring her here. Now." Hale's face went pale. "You're having a psychotic episode." The blade bit in. A thin line of red appeared on Hale's neck. "Her name is Nora Blake," the soldier repeated, slower this time. "She works nights. Third floor. You have 2 minutes." A junior resident bolted. Nora was restocking a supply closet when the resident found her. "Dr. Hale needs you in Trauma 1. She blinked. "Hale? Now, there's a patient. He's asking for you." "Asking for me? By name?" That didn't make sense. Nora didn't work trauma. She didn't know any patients by name who'd come through the ER in the last year. She followed the resident back downstairs, her mind running through possibilities and coming up empty. When she stepped into Trauma Bay 1, the first thing she saw was blood. The second was Dr. Hale, frozen in place with a scalpel at his throat. The third was the man holding it. Her breath caught. She knew that face. Not his name, not anymore. But the scar along his jawline, the way his eyes tracked movement, the set of his shoulders even while bleeding out. "Ghost," he whispered. The room spun. No one had called her that in 8 years. Hale's voice cracked. "Nora, this man is unstable. We need to—" "Everyone out," she said. Her voice didn't sound like hers. It was harder, colder. Hale stared at her. "Excuse me?" "Everyone out, now. This is my trauma bay." She turned to face him, and something in her expression made him stop talking. "You have 10 seconds, Nora said quietly. "Then I tell him to cut." Hale's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." 9. "Nora." 8. The soldier's grip tightened. Hale felt it. "Fine," Hale snapped, stepping back carefully. "But this is on you." He gestured to the team. They hesitated, then filed out. The door swung shut. Silence. Nora crossed the room in 3 strides, her hands already moving, checking his pulse, assessing his wounds, her mind cataloging injuries with the kind of speed that came from years of practice in places that didn't have backup. "Let go of the scalpel," she said softly. He did. It clattered to the floor. "How bad?" he asked. "Bad enough." She grabbed gauze, applied pressure to the worst bleeder. "What happened?" "Ambush. Extraction went sideways." "Where?" "Can't say." "Then I can't help you." His eyes met hers. "Yes, you can." She worked in silence for a moment, her hands steady. "They're going to come back in here. And when they do, they're going to ask questions I can't answer. Tell them there's a bomb." She froze. "What?" "Strapped to my chest, dead man switch. If my heart stops, it detonates." "Is there actually?" "No, but they'll believe you." Nora stared at him. Then, slowly, she nodded. She walked to the door, opened it a crack. Hale was waiting right outside, arms crossed. "Well?" "He says he's rigged," Nora said, her voice steady. "Explosive device. Dead man trigger." Hale's expression shifted from anger to alarm. "What?" "If his vitals drop, it goes off. We need to clear the floor and call the bomb squad." "That's insane. Look at him, doctor. Does he look like someone who's bluffing?" Hale glanced past her into the room. The soldier lay still, watching them both with the kind of calm that made people nervous. "Jesus Christ," Hale muttered. He turned, already shouting orders. "Clear the ER. Evacuation protocol. Get me the police and a bomb unit." The hallway erupted into controlled chaos. Nora shut the door. She turned back to the soldier. "You just bought us maybe 20 minutes. That's all I need." "For what?" He reached into his tactical vest, slowly, painfully, and pulled out a small black device. It looked like a USB drive, but thicker, reinforced. "This gets out," he said. "No matter what." "What is it?" "Proof." "Of what?" "Everything." She took it, turning it over in her hands. No labels, no markings. "Who are you?" she asked. "Call signs Reaper. That's all you need." "That's not enough." He coughed, blood flecking his lips. "You're Nora Blake. But 8 years ago, you were Senior Medical Sergeant Nora Calloway. 1st Special Forces Group. You ran field hospitals in places that didn't exist, pulled 47 soldiers out of kill zones, and then you disappeared. Her hands stilled. I retired. No, you ran. The words hit like a punch. I didn't run, she said quietly. I survived. Then survive this. He pressed the device into her palm. Protocol 9. Ever heard of it? She shook her head. Black budget kill program, private contractors. They're cleaning up loose ends. I'm one of them. He paused, breathing hard. So are you. That's impossible. I've been out for... Doesn't matter. You know too much. You've seen too much. And now they know I found you. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Voices. Nora glanced at the door, then back at him. If what you're saying is true, we're both dead already. Not if you move fast. I'm a nurse. You're a soldier. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned, grabbed a suture kit, and started working on his chest wounds with the kind of precision that didn't come from bedside nursing. This is going to hurt, she said. Good. She irrigated the wounds, pulled shrapnel, stitched faster than most surgeons. He didn't make a sound. When she finished, she stepped back, hands slick with blood. You'll live, for now. Appreciated, Ghost. Don't call me that. Why not? It's who you are. It's who I was. The door burst open. But it wasn't hospital security. It wasn't the bomb squad. It was 3 men in black tactical gear, weapons drawn, faces covered. No badges, no insignia. Nora's stomach dropped. Step away from the patient, the lead man said, voice flat. Professional. She didn't move. Who are you? Homeland Security. Step away. Where's your identification? He didn't answer. He just raised his weapon, aiming it at her chest. Reaper's eyes met hers. One word, mouthed silently, run. She grabbed the nearest IV stand and swung it hard into the lead man's rifle, knocking it wide. The shot went wild, punching through a monitor. Reaper rolled off the gurney, hitting the floor hard, and swept the second man's legs out from under him. Nora dove behind a crash cart as bullets tore through the trauma bay. Glass shattered. Machines exploded. She crawled toward the door, adrenaline drowning out thought, her hands moving on instinct, grabbing a scalpel, a syringe, anything sharp. The third man rounded the cart. She drove the scalpel into his thigh. He screamed, stumbling back, and she shoved past him into the hallway. Alarms blared. The emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in red. Behind her, she heard gunfire. A body hit the floor. She didn't look back. Nora ran. Not like a nurse. Like a soldier who'd spent years learning how to disappear. She hit the stairwell, taking the steps 3 at a time, her mind racing. They'd come for Reaper. They'd found him here. Which meant someone had tipped them off. Which meant the hospital wasn't safe. Nothing was safe. She burst onto the 4th floor, breathing hard, and ducked into a supply room. Locked the door, leaned against it, trying to think. The device was still in her pocket. Protocol 9. She pulled it out, staring at it. Proof, he'd said. Of what? Her hands were shaking. She forced them still. 8 years. 8 years she'd kept her head down, stayed invisible, buried everything she used to be. And now, in one night, it was all coming back. Footsteps in the hallway. She held her breath. They passed. She waited 30 seconds. Then she cracked the door open, peered out. Empty. She moved quickly, quietly, the way she used to in the field. Down the hall. Past the nurse's station. Toward the service elevator. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. Nora Blake? A woman's voice. Calm. Cold. Who is this? Someone who's been looking for you for a very long time. Nora's blood went cold. What do you want? The same thing you do, to survive. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Reaper found you. That means we found you, and now you have something that belongs to us. Nora's grip tightened on the device. I don't have anything. Then you won't mind dying for nothing. The line went dead. Nora stared at the phone, her heart hammered against her ribs. Whoever these people were, they'd tracked her down in minutes. They knew Reaper had reached her. They knew about the device, which meant they had access to hospital systems, security cameras, maybe even personnel records. She couldn't stay here. She pocketed the phone and moved toward the stairwell again, but stopped short when she heard voices below. Multiple people. Boots on concrete. Not hospital staff. She reversed direction, heading for the north wing. Ravencrest was old, built in sections over decades. There were passages most people didn't know about, service corridors, maintenance shafts, spaces between the floors where infrastructure ran. Nora had worked nights for 6 years. She knew every shadow in this place. She ducked into a janitorial closet, moved aside a shelf, and slipped through a narrow door marked Authorized Personnel Only. The passage beyond was dimmed, lit only by emergency strips along the baseboards. Pipes ran overhead. The air smelled like dust and old paint. She followed it to a junction, turned left, and came out near the old radiology wing. This section had been decommissioned 2 years ago, waiting for a remodel that never came. The lights were off. The hallways were empty. Perfect. She found an abandoned office, locked herself inside, and finally let herself breathe. Her hands were still covered in Reaper's blood. She washed them in a rust-stained sink, scrubbing hard, watching the water run red. When her hands were clean, she pulled out the device again and examined it more carefully. It was heavier than it looked. Military grade. The casing was sealed. No screws, no seams. Whatever was inside, it wasn't meant to be tampered with. Protocol 9. She'd never heard the term before tonight, but the way Reaper had said it, the urgency, the fear, told her everything she needed to know. People were dying because of what was on this drive, and now she was one of them. A noise outside the door made her freeze. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. She killed the light, pressed herself against the wall beside the door, and waited. The footsteps stopped. A shadow moved across the gap beneath the door. Nora's pulse roared in her ears. She still had the scalpel from earlier, gripped tight in her right hand. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. The door handle rattled, then a voice, low and male. "Nora Calloway, I know you're in there." She didn't answer. "We don't want to hurt you. We just want what you took." Still nothing. "You're a medic, not a soldier. You're not trained for this. You're scared, I get it. But if you come out now, we can all walk away." Nora almost laughed. Walk away? Sure, with a bullet in her spine. "Last chance," the voice said. She heard him step back, heard something click, and then the door exploded inward. Nora ducked as splinters flew. A flashlight beam cut through the smoke, sweeping the room. She moved fast, grabbing a wheeled office chair and shoving it hard into the man's legs. He stumbled, and she was already past him, into the hallway, running, shouts behind her, footsteps pounding. She sprinted through the darkened wing, turned a corner, and nearly ran straight into another figure. This one was faster. A hand shot out, grabbed her wrist, twisted. The scalpel clattered to the floor. Nora drove her knee up, aiming for the groin, but he blocked it, spun her around, and slammed her face first against the wall. "Got her!" he called into her radio. Nora's mind raced. She was pinned, out of weapons, out of options, except one. She let her body go limp, dead weight. The man's grip shifted to compensate, and in that half-second of adjustment, she twisted hard, slipped low, and drove her elbow into his knee. He grunted, buckled. She grabbed his sidearm, a Glock holstered at his hip, and pulled. He realized too late what she was doing. The gun came free. Nora didn't hesitate. She brought it up, aimed center mass, and fired twice. The suppressed shots were louder than she expected in the enclosed space. The man dropped. She stood there, breathing hard, the gun trembling in her hands. 8 years. 8 years since she'd held a weapon. 8 years since she'd had to make that choice. And it still felt the same. Footsteps. More of them. Converging from both ends of the hallway, Nora grabbed the dead man's radio, clipped it to her belt, and ran. The radio crackled. "Tango down. Repeat, tango down. Subject is armed." A different voice, cold and commanding. "All units switch to lethal force. No more playing nice." Nora's stomach turned to ice. She had maybe 2 minutes before they locked down every exit. She needed a way out, and she needed it now. The loading docks, ground floor, east side. Ambulance bay connected to the main road. If she could get there, if she could find a vehicle. She hit the stairwell at a sprint, taking the steps 3 at a time. Second floor, first floor, ground level. The door to the loading area was locked. She shot the lock. The door swung open, and she was out, into the cold Chicago night. The loading dock was empty except for a single ambulance parked near the bay doors. She ran for it. The driver's door was unlocked, keys in the ignition. Someone up there liked her. She climbed in, started the engine, and floored it. The ambulance lurched forward, tires screaming. She blasted through the bay doors, shattering them, and hit the street doing 40. Behind her, she saw figures spilling out of the hospital. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness. Bullets punched through the rear doors. One shattered the side mirror. Nora kept driving. She took a hard left onto Madison, weaving through late-night traffic, ignoring red lights and blaring horns. The ambulance handled like a tank, but it was fast when it needed to be. She checked the rear view. 2 black SUVs were already in pursuit. Of course they were. She took another turn, barely slowing, and the ambulance tilted dangerously before slamming back down. Her passengers, medical equipment, stretchers, supply cabinets, crashed around in the back. The SUVs stayed on her. Nora's mind worked through options. She couldn't outrun them. Not in this thing. She needed to lose them, which meant getting off the main roads. She turned into an alley, too narrow for the SUVs. They screeched to a stop behind her, and she heard doors opening, boots hitting pavement. She kept going, the ambulance scraping against brick walls on both sides, until she burst out onto a side street. A figure stepped into her path. Nora slammed the brakes. The ambulance skidded to a stop, inches from a man in tactical gear, rifle raised. But he wasn't aiming at her. He was aiming past her. And then he fired. The SUV that had been coming up behind her exploded in a ball of flame. Nora's ears rang. She stared at the burning wreckage, then at the man. He lowered his rifle, walked up to the driver's window, and knocked. She rolled it down slowly. He was older than the others, 50, maybe. Short gray hair, a face that had seen too many wars. "Sergeant Calloway," he said. Not a question. "Who are you?" "Major Leon Hastings. I'm here to bring you in." "Bring me in where?" "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It's the best you're getting tonight." Behind him, more soldiers appeared, U.S. military, real ones, with proper insignia and unit patches. Nora's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "How do I know you're not with them?" "You don't," Hastings said, "but if I were, you'd already be dead." "Fair point." "What do you want?" she asked. "The device Reaper gave you, in your testimony." "About what?" "Protocol 9. Her blood ran cold. "You know about it?" "We've suspected for months, but we couldn't prove it, until tonight." He gestured to the burning SUV. "Those men weren't Homeland Security. They weren't any government agency. They're private contractors working for a Black Ops kill program that officially doesn't exist." "And you do what exactly?" "Military intelligence. We've been tracking Protocol 9 for 2 years. Reaper was one of our assets. He was supposed to extract the proof and deliver it to us. But he got hit before he could make the handoff. So he came to me." "Because he trusted you." Nora looked at him, really looked, trying to read whether this was another lie, another layer of deception. She didn't see anything that screamed trap, but she'd been wrong before. "If I give you the device," she said slowly, "what happens to me?" "Protective custody, new identity if you want it, full immunity." "And if I don't?" Hastings glanced back at the burning SUV. "Those men have orders to kill you, so do about 40 others just like them. You can run, Sergeant, you're good at that, but you won't make it past sunrise." She hated that he was right. She hated even more that she had no choice. Nora reached into her pocket, pulled out the device, and held it up. Hastings took it carefully, like it might explode. "Thank you," he said. "Don't thank me yet. You don't know what's on it." "I know enough." He stepped back, gestured to one of the soldiers. "Corporal Hayes will escort you to a secure location. You'll be debriefed in the morning." "What about Reaper?" Hastings' expression darkened. "He didn't make it. The men you left behind at the hospital finished him." The words hit her like a fist. Reaper was dead. He'd trusted her. He'd put everything on the line to get that device to her. And now he was gone. Nora felt something crack inside her, something she'd kept buried for 8 years. "I want in," she said. Hastings frowned. "In? Whatever you're doing, whatever comes next, I want in." "You're a civilian, Sergeant. You've been out for—" "I know what I am." Her voice was hard. And I know what they did. They came into my hospital. They killed patients. They tried to kill me. I'm not running anymore. Hastings studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, he said. But you follow orders. You don't go rogue. You don't play hero. We do this clean, we do it legal, and we do it right. Understood? Understood. Good. He turned to Hayes. Get her to the safe house. I'll meet you there in 3 hours. Hayes nodded and gestured to a black sedan parked nearby. Ma'am. Nora climbed out of the ambulance and followed him. As they drove away, she looked back at Ravencrest Medical Center, its lights blazing in the distance. 8 years she'd hidden there. 8 years of silence. That was over now. The radio on Hayes's belt crackled, a voice she didn't recognize. Alpha Team, this is Command. Be advised, we have multiple targets converging on your location. Recommend immediate evasion. Hayes grabbed the radio. Copy that, Command. How many? At least 6 vehicles. They're not being subtle. Roger. Changing route. He took a hard right, accelerating. Nora glanced back and saw headlights in the distance, closing fast. They don't give up, do they? She muttered. No, ma'am, Hayes said. They don't. He drove like someone who'd done this before. Fast, efficient, taking turns without slowing. They weaved through side streets, cut through a parking garage, and emerged on the opposite side of the city. The headlights fell back, but they didn't disappear. Where's the safe house? Nora asked. Outskirts, industrial area. Secure. How secure? Secure enough. That wasn't comforting. They drove in silence for another 20 minutes, the city giving way to warehouses and empty lots. Hayes pulled into a gated compound, flashed his ID to the guard, and drove through. The safe house was a nondescript building, concrete, no windows, surrounded by fencing and cameras. Inside it was sparse. A few rooms, basic furniture, reinforced doors. Hayes showed her to a small bedroom. Get some rest. Major Hastings will be here in a few hours. I'm not tired. Doesn't matter. You need to sleep. She wanted to argue, but he was right. Adrenaline could only carry her so far. She nodded and Hayes left, locking the door behind him. Nora sat on the edge of the bed, her body finally catching up to everything that had happened. Reaper was dead. She'd killed a man. She was being hunted by a private army. And somewhere out there, on that device, was proof of something so bad that people were willing to burn the world to keep it hidden. She lay back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. Instead, her mind replayed the last 8 years. Every shift at Ravencrest, every time she'd bitten her tongue, every moment she'd let herself be small, invisible, forgettable. She'd thought she was safe. She'd thought she could leave it all behind. But the truth was, you couldn't run from what you were. And Nora Calloway had never been just a nurse. She'd been a soldier, a medic who'd learned to fight because the people she saved kept getting shot. A woman who'd seen things that didn't make it into reports. And now, those things had found her. Somewhere in the building, she heard voices, footsteps. Her hand moved instinctively to her waistband, but the gun was gone. Hayes had taken it when they arrived. The footsteps passed. She forced herself to breathe. 3 hours, Hayes had said. She could make it 3 hours. She had to, because when Hastings arrived, she was going to find out exactly what was on that device. And then she was going to make sure every single person responsible paid for what they'd done. Not because she was a hero. Not because she wanted revenge, but because some things, once you knew them, you couldn't unknow. And some fights, once they found you, you couldn't walk away from. Nora closed her eyes, and for the first time in 8 years, she let herself remember who she used to be. The woman who walked through her door 3 hours later wasn't Major Hastings. She was younger, mid-30s, with sharp eyes and the kind of posture that came from years of telling people what to do. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, a fitted jacket, but the way she moved screamed military. Sergeant Calloway, the woman said, not bothering with pleasantries. I'm Captain Rebecca Torres, Intelligence Division. Nora sat up. Where's Hastings? Detained. Something came up. Torres pulled a chair over and sat backward on it, arms crossed over the backrest. We need to talk about what's on that device. I don't know what's on it, but you know what it represents. Reaper said it was proof of Protocol 9. Torres nodded slowly. Did he tell you what Protocol 9 actually is? A kill program. Private contractors cleaning up loose ends. That's the surface. The truth's worse. Torres pulled out a tablet, tapped a few commands, and turned it toward Nora. This is what we've recovered so far, just the first layer. The screen showed a list of names, dozens of them. Some Nora recognized, former military personnel, intelligence operatives, even a few journalists. Next to each name was a date and a single word: terminated. These are people who knew too much, Torres said, about black budget operations, illegal renditions, arms deals that weren't supposed to happen. Protocol 9 was created to eliminate them quietly. Make it look like accidents, suicides, natural causes. Nora's stomach turned. How many? 83 confirmed, maybe twice that if we count the ones we can't prove. And the government knows about this? Torres's expression hardened. Parts of it do. Other parts are trying to stop it. That's where we come in. We? A task force. Military intelligence, FBI, a few people from justice. We've been building a case for 2 years, but we couldn't move without hard evidence. That device you brought us? It's the key. Financial records, communication logs, kill orders with signatures attached. Nora stared at the list of names. Who's running it? A private military corporation called Apex Tactical Solutions. On paper, they do security consulting. In reality, they're a for-hire death squad with contracts in 40 countries. And they're operating on U.S. soil, with protection from people high enough up the chain that we couldn't touch them. Until now. Torres took the tablet back. The data Reaper died for proves everything. Who gave the orders? Who authorized the funding? Who covered it up? Then why am I here? You have what you need. Because there's a problem. Torres leaned forward. The device is encrypted. Military-grade, layered security. We can access the first layer, the names, the dates, but the real evidence, the files that will hold up in court, are locked behind a biometric authentication system. Nora's blood went cold. What kind of biometric? Retinal scan and voice print, specifically yours. The room tilted. That's impossible, Nora said. I've been out for 8 years. I don't have clearance for... You did. Back when you were running field operations in Syria. You were read into a program called Phantom Protocol. Ring any bells? It did, vaguely. A briefing she'd sat through half asleep after a 72-hour shift. Something about secure data storage for forward-deployed units. I barely remember it, Nora admitted. Doesn't matter, your biometrics were logged into the system. Reaper knew that. That's why he came to you. The device won't open without you. Nora's hands curled into fists. So I'm not here because you want to protect me. I'm here because you need me. Torres didn't flinch. Both can be true. Where's the device now? Secure facility, 30 minutes from here. And if I unlock it? We take down Apex. We arrest everyone involved. We end this. Nora stood pacing the small room. Her mind raced through the implications. If she did this, she'd be putting a target on her back that would never go away. Apex wouldn't just roll over. They'd come after her with everything they had. But if she didn't... How many people are still on their list? She asked. Torres hesitated. We don't know. The device has at least 3 more layers we can't access. Best guess. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Nora stopped pacing. She thought about Reaper, bleeding out on that table, trusting her with his last breath. She thought about the 83 names on that screen. People who'd been erased because they knew too much. She thought about the last 8 years, hiding, pretending to be someone she wasn't. When do we leave? She asked. Torres stood. Now. They drove in an unmarked SUV, Torres at the wheel, 2 armed soldiers in the back. The city blurred past, streetlights cutting through the darkness. Nora watched the side mirror, checking for tails. You won't see them if they're following us, Torres said. That's supposed to be comforting? No, just honest. They took the highway north, exiting into an industrial area that looked abandoned. Empty factories, rusted fences, weeds growing through cracked pavement. Torres turned down a service road and pulled up to a gate guarded by soldiers in full combat gear. IDs were checked. The gate opened. Inside, the compound looked like a military forward operating base. Prefab buildings, generators, satellite dishes, armed personnel everywhere. Torres parked near the central building and led Nora inside. The interior was all concrete and fluorescent lights. They passed through 2 security checkpoints, each more thorough than the last. retinal scans, fingerprints, metal detectors. Finally, they entered a room that looked like a cross between a server farm and a bunker. Screens lined the walls showing data streams and surveillance feeds. In the center, on a reinforced table, sat the device Reaper had given her. A man stood beside it, early 40s, wearing a civilian suit that didn't quite hide the shoulder holster underneath. He looked up as they entered. "Sergeant Calloway," he said, extending a hand. "Special Agent Marcus Delgado, FBI. Thanks for coming." Nora shook his hand. His grip was firm, professional. "Captain Torres briefed you?" he asked. "Enough." "Good. Then let's get started." He gestured to the device. "We've got the retinal scanner and voice authentication system set up. You'll need to provide both to unlock the next layer." Nora approached the table. Up close, the device looked even more intimidating. Military tech she didn't fully understand. "What happens after I unlock it?" she asked. "We download the files, analyze them, and build prosecutions. If everything checks out, we start making arrests within 48 hours. And if it doesn't check out?" Delgado's expression darkened. "Then a lot of people died for nothing." Nora looked at the device, then at Torres, then at Delgado. "Do it," she said. Delgado nodded to a technician who brought over a scanner. "Look into the lens. Don't blink." Nora did. A red laser swept across her eye. The device beeped. "Voice authentication," the technician said. "Repeat the following phrase. Authorization Calloway 7 Delta 9. Nora hesitated. The phrase pulled at something in her memory. She'd used it before, years ago, in a place she'd tried to forget. "Authorization Calloway 7 Delta 9, she said clearly. The device beeped again. Then it opened. Not physically, but the screens around the room lit up, data flooding across them faster than anyone could read. "We're in," the technician said, fingers flying across a keyboard. "Downloading now." Delgado moved closer to one of the screens, his eyes scanning the information. His face went pale. "Oh my God," he whispered. Torres stepped up beside him. "What is it?" "It's not just kill orders. It's everything. Financial transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts." He turned to look at Nora. "This doesn't just implicate Apex. It goes all the way up." "How far up?" Torres asked. Delgado didn't answer. He just pointed at the screen. Nora looked, and there, buried in a file marked Executive Authorization, was a name she recognized. Senator William Cross, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, third in line for the presidency. "Jesus Christ," Torres breathed. The room fell silent except for the hum of servers and the soft clicking of keyboards. Nora felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just about taking down a private military company. This was about exposing corruption at the highest levels of government. "We can't move on this alone," Delgado said, his voice tight. "If Cross is involved, he'll have protection, legal teams, political cover." "Then we go over his head," Torres said. "To who? He's got allies in every agency." "Not every agency." Torres pulled out her phone. "I know someone." She stepped away, speaking in low tones Nora couldn't hear. Delgado turned back to the screens, his jaw set. "Keep downloading. I want every file, every transaction, every communication." The technician nodded, working faster. Nora stood there, feeling useless. She'd unlocked the device. That was her part. Now she was just a witness to something so much bigger than her. Torres came back, her expression grim. "We've got a problem." "Another one?" Delgado asked. "Hastings is dead." The words hung in the air like a bomb. "What?" Nora's voice cracked. "Car accident, 20 minutes ago. His vehicle went off an overpass." "That's not a coincidence," Delgado said. "No, it's not." Torres looked at Nora. "They know you're here. They know what we're doing." As if on cue, the lights flickered. Everyone froze. Then the alarm started. Red emergency lights bathed the room. A computerized voice echoed through the facility. "Perimeter breach. All personnel to defensive positions." Delgado grabbed his sidearm. "How many?" A soldier burst through the door. "Unknown. Multiple contacts coming from all sides." "Apex?" Torres asked. "Who else?" Gunfire erupted outside. Close. Too close. Torres turned to the technician. "How much longer?" "5 minutes, maybe less." We don't have 5 minutes. She grabbed Nora's arm. We need to move you. I'm not leaving, Nora said. You don't have a choice. An explosion rocked the building. The floor shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Delgado cursed. They're using breaching charges. They're coming in hard. Torres drew her weapon. Get her to the evac point. I'll buy you time. Captain, that's an order, Delgado. He hesitated, then nodded. He grabbed Nora's arm and pulled her toward a side door. Wait, Nora said, twisting free. She ran back to the table, grabbed the device. It was still downloading, a progress bar crawling across the screen. 73%. Leave it, Delgado shouted. No! She yanked the cables free, clutching the device to her chest. If they get this, it's over. Another explosion. Closer. The walls cracked. Delgado grabbed her again, harder this time, and dragged her through the door. The hallway beyond was chaos. Soldiers running, shouting, taking positions. Smoke filled the air. Emergency lights strobed. Delgado led her down a corridor through a door marked emergency exit and into a stairwell. They went down, fast, Nora's boots clanging on metal steps. Behind them she heard gunfire, screaming. They hit the bottom level and burst through a door into an underground garage. A single vehicle waited, armored transport, engine running. Get in, Delgado shouted. Nora climbed into the back. Delgado jumped into the driver's seat and floored it. The transport roared forward, smashing through a security gate, and emerged into the night. Nora looked back through the rear window. The compound was lit up like a war zone. Flames, smoke, tracer rounds cutting through the darkness. Where are we going? She asked. Anywhere but here. He took a hard turn, tires screaming, and accelerated onto the highway. Nora clutched the device, checking it. The download had stopped at 78%. Not complete, but enough. It had to be enough. They'll follow us, she said. I know. So what's the plan? Delgado didn't answer right away. He was focused on the road, checking mirrors, scanning for threats. Finally, he said, We get you somewhere secure. We finish the download, and we burn these bastards to the ground. That's not a plan. That's a wish list. It's all I've got. Headlights appeared behind them. Multiple vehicles, closing fast. Damn it, Delgado muttered. He pushed the transport harder. But the SUVs were faster. They pulled alongside, windows rolling down. Nora saw the guns. Get down, Delgado yelled. She dropped to the floor as bullets ripped through the transport. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Delgado swerved, slamming into one of the SUVs, forcing it off the road. It spun out, crashed into a guardrail. But there were two more. One pulled ahead, trying to cut them off. The other stayed back, firing. Delgado reached under his seat, pulled out a submachine gun, and handed it back to Nora. You remember how to use one of these? She took it, checked the magazine. Full. It's been a while. Now's a good time to practice. She rolled down the window, leaned out, and fired. The recoil jolted through her arms, but her aim was steady. Bullets stitched across the hood of the trailing SUV. It swerved, falling back. The SUV ahead brake-checked them. Delgado didn't slow. He rammed it. The impact threw Nora forward. She caught herself, kept firing. The SUV ahead spun out, lost control, and flipped. But more were coming. Nora counted 4, then 6. We can't outrun them, she said. I know. So what? Delgado yanked the wheel hard, taking an exit at the last second. The transport tilted, nearly rolled, then slammed back down. They were off the highway now, on surface streets. Darker, narrower. Delgado killed the headlights and took a series of turns, weaving through an industrial district. The SUVs followed, but they were losing ground. He pulled into an alley, shut off the engine, and waited. Silence. Nora's heart hammered. She kept the gun raised, watching the entrance to the alley. Seconds stretched. Then headlights swept past. The SUVs searching. They didn't turn in. Delgado waited another 30 seconds, then started the engine again and pulled out the opposite end of the alley. That won't work twice, Nora said. Doesn't need to. We're almost there. Where? Safe house. Different one. Off the books. He drove for another 10 minutes, checking mirrors constantly, before pulling into an underground parking garage beneath an old apartment building. He parked, grabbed a go bag from under his seat, and motioned for Nora to follow. They took an elevator to the 6th floor. Delgado led her to a unit at the end of the hall, unlocked 3 separate deadbolts, and ushered her inside. The apartment was sparse, functional, a few pieces of furniture, blackout curtains, and what looked like enough weapons to start a small war. "This is yours?" Nora asked. "Backup location, in case things went bad." "I'd say they went bad." Delgado locked the door, engaged the deadbolts, and set the go bag on a table. He pulled out a laptop, powered it up, and connected the device. "Let's see what we've got," he muttered. Nora sat beside him, watching the screen. Files appeared, hundreds of them. Financial records, emails, contracts, kill orders, and names. So many names. Not just Senator Cross, a federal judge, 2 generals, a deputy director at the CIA. "This is enough to bring down half of Washington," Delgado said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Will it hold up in court?" "If we can protect it. And you." Nora looked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means you're the only living person who can authenticate this data. Without you, defense lawyers will shred it. They'll claim it's fabricated, hacked, manipulated. So I'm a witness. You're the witness. The only one that matters." Nora leaned back, the weight of it crushing. "I didn't ask for this." "No one ever does." She thought about Reaper, about Hastings, about the 83 names on that list. "What happens now?" she asked. "We call in people I trust. Federal prosecutors, inspectors general, people who can't be bought." He paused. "And then we go public." "Public?" "The media. Every outlet. We release everything at once so they can't bury it. That'll start a war." "It'll end one." Nora wasn't sure she believed that, but she was out of options. "How long?" she asked. 12 hours, maybe less." Delgado pulled out his phone and started making calls. Nora listened as he spoke in clipped tones, using language she only half understood. Legal jargon, jurisdictional protocols, chain of custody. She stood, walked to the window, and peered through a gap in the curtains. The street below was quiet, empty, too quiet. A black van pulled up across the street. Nora's stomach dropped. "Delgado," she said. He looked up. "What?" "We've got company." He crossed to the window, looked out, and cursed. "How did they find us?" "Does it matter?" He grabbed the laptop, shoved it into the go bag. "We need to move." "Where? They've got the exits covered." Delgado thought fast. "Roof. There's a fire escape on the north side." They ran, out the door, down the hall, up a stairwell to the roof access. Delgado kicked the door open and they emerged into the cold night air. The roof was flat, bordered by a low wall. Nora could see the fire escape on the far side. Behind them, the stairwell door burst open. Men in tactical gear poured out. Delgado fired, dropping the first 2. But there were more. Nora ran for the fire escape, Delgado right behind her. Bullets chewed up the rooftop. Sparks flew. She reached the edge, grabbed the ladder, and started down. Delgado covered her, firing controlled bursts. Halfway down, Nora heard him grunt. She looked up. He was hit, shoulder, blood spreading across his shirt. "Keep going," he shouted. She dropped the rest of the way, hit the ground hard, and looked up. Delgado was still firing, but he was slowing, losing blood. "Jump!" she yelled. He didn't. He just looked down at her, his expression almost peaceful. "Get it out," he said. "Finish this." Then he turned and charged back at the men on the roof. Nora heard the gunfire, heard him scream. Then silence. She stood there, frozen, the go bag clutched in her hands. Delgado was dead. They'd killed him. Just like Reaper. Just like Hastings. And she was next. Voices above, footsteps on the fire escape. Nora ran. Through alleys, across streets, into the shadows. She didn't stop. Didn't think. Just moved. When she finally slowed, gasping for air, she was somewhere in the warehouse district, alone. Bleeding from a cut on her arm she didn't remember getting. She pulled out the laptop from the go bag, powered it on with shaking hands. The files were still there. All of them. Proof. Evidence. Justice. If she could survive long enough to deliver it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Nora Calloway, a man's voice said, smooth, confident. I'm impressed. You've lasted longer than I expected. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you, someone who knows what you have, and someone who's going to make you an offer. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. I don't need to. Walk away, the voice said. Destroy the files, disappear. We'll give you money, a new identity, a life far away from all of this. And if I don't, then you die. Tonight, along with everyone you've ever cared about. Nora's blood turned to ice. I don't have anyone. Everyone has someone, Sergeant. A neighbor, a coworker, someone who'll miss you when you're gone, and will make sure they go with you. She wanted to hang up, but she forced herself to listen. You have 60 seconds to decide, the voice said. After that, we start cleaning up. The line went dead. Nora stood in the darkness, the laptop in her hands, the weight of the decision crushing her. She could run, destroy the files, save herself, or she could fight, risk everything, and probably die. But then she thought about the 83 names, the people who'd already been killed, the ones still on the list. She thought about Reaper, trusting her with his last breath. She thought about Delgado, charging back into gunfire so she could escape. And she made her choice. Nora opened the laptop, found the files, and started uploading them. Not to one place, to everywhere. News outlets, whistleblower sites, social media, congressional offices. She sent everything. And when the upload finished, she sat back and waited. Somewhere across the city, in a glass tower overlooking Lake Michigan, a phone rang. A man answered, listened, and went pale. Sir, his assistant said, we have a problem. The files just went public. Senator William Cross stood, staring out at the city lights, his carefully constructed world collapsing around him. Find her, he said quietly, and kill her. But Nora Blake was already gone, and the war she'd started was just beginning. The uploads finished at 3:47 a.m. Nora watched the progress bars complete, one after another, her finger hovering over the laptop's power button. The screen glowed in the darkness of the warehouse she'd broken into, an old textile factory that smelled like mildew and rust. She shut the laptop, shoved it into the go bag, and moved. Outside, Chicago was waking up to a nightmare it didn't know existed yet. The files were out there now, spreading across servers in 12 countries, bouncing through encrypted networks she'd set up years ago and never thought she'd use again. By sunrise, every major news organization would have them. By noon, the world would know. But that didn't mean she'd live to see it. Nora kept to the shadows, moving through alleys and side streets, her mind working through survival calculations. No phone. She'd smashed it after that last call. No ID. No money except the $40 in Delgado's go bag. No allies left alive. She was alone. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt familiar. Comfortable even. This was who she used to be. Before Ravencrest. Before she'd convinced herself that being invisible was the same as being safe. A siren wailed in the distance. Then another. Police, ambulance, maybe fire. Chicago always had sirens. But these felt different, urgent, converging. Nora ducked into a 24-hour laundromat, empty except for a kid wearing headphones and nodding off in a plastic chair. She grabbed a discarded newspaper from a table and sat in the back corner, watching the street through the grimy windows. 3 minutes later, 2 black SUVs screamed past. Not police. Apex. They were hunting, block by block. And they had the resources to do it all night. Nora needed to disappear. Really disappear. Not just hide in a warehouse or a safe house that could be compromised. She needed to get out of Chicago entirely. But first, she needed leverage. She pulled out the laptop again, connected to the laundromat's Wi-Fi, and started searching. News sites were already picking up the story. The headlines were tentative, careful. Leaked documents allege government ties to private military. Contractor Senator Cross denies involvement in fabricated scandal. FBI opens investigation into Apex Tactical Solutions fabricated. That's what they'd call it. That's what their lawyers and PR teams were already spinning. Without someone to stand up and authenticate the data, it would get buried under legal challenges and conspiracy theories. Delgado had been right. She was the only witness that mattered, which meant she needed to stay alive long enough to testify. Nora closed the laptop and looked at the kid in the headphones. He was maybe 19, wearing a delivery company jacket. A bike leaned against the wall beside him. She stood, walked over, and tapped his shoulder. He jumped, yanking off his headphones. "What?" "I need your bike." "What? No, get lost." Nora pulled out the $40. "200. I don't have change for... I don't want change. I want the bike. 40 now, the rest when I bring it back." The kid stared at her like she was insane. "You're not bringing it back." "You're right, I'm not." She held out the money. "But $40 is $40. He looked at the cash, then at her face. Whatever he saw there made him take the money. "It's not even my bike," he muttered. "Boss is going to kill me." "Tell him it was stolen. File a police report." She took the bike, walked it outside, and pedaled into the pre-dawn darkness. The wind cut through her thin jacket as she rode north, staying off main roads, avoiding cameras. Her legs burned, her cut arm throbbed, but she kept going. She needed someone she could trust, someone outside the system, someone Apex wouldn't see coming, and she knew exactly who. 40 minutes later, Nora stood outside a brick townhouse in Lincoln Park, catching her breath. The lights were off, no movement inside. She walked up the steps and knocked. Hard. Nothing. She knocked again. "Lynette, open up." A dog barked inside. Then footsteps. The door cracked open, chain still engaged. A woman peered out, late 50s, gray hair, sleep must, wearing a bathrobe. Her eyes went wide. "Nora? I need your help." "It's 4 a.m. I know what time it is. Let me in." Lynette hesitated, then unhooked the chain. Nora slipped inside and the door locked behind her. The house smelled like coffee and old books. A golden retriever sniffed Nora's legs, tail wagging. Lynette crossed her arms. "What's going on?" "You still have that cabin? The one up in Wisconsin?" "Why?" "I need to disappear for a few days." Lynette's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. "Are you in trouble?" "Yes." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind where people are trying to kill me." Lynette stared at her. "That's not funny." "It's not a joke." Nora pulled off her jacket, revealing the cut on her arm. Blood had soaked through the makeshift bandage. "I need somewhere off the grid. No paper trail, no witnesses." Lynette looked at the wound, then at Nora's face. They'd worked together at Ravencrest for 3 years. Not friends exactly, but Lynette had always been solid, dependable. "This is about what's on the news, isn't it?" Lynette asked quietly. "Those files, Apex Tactical. How do you... It's all over the internet. Someone leaked everything." She paused. "That was you." Nora didn't answer. Lynette walked to the kitchen, came back with a first aid kit. "Sit down." Nora sat. Lynette cleaned the wound. It wasn't deep, but it needed stitches. She worked in silence, her hands steady. "The cabin's 2 hours north," Lynette said finally. "No electricity, no running water, just a generator and a well pump." "Perfect. There's no cell service either. You'll be completely isolated." "Even better." Lynette tied off the last stitch and sat back. "How long?" "A week, maybe less." "And then what?" "Then I testify, and this whole thing ends." Lynette shook her head. "You always did this. Jumped into things without thinking." "I'm thinking plenty." "No, you're reacting. There's a difference." Lynette stood, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a set of keys. She tossed them to Nora. "The cabin's under my maiden name. No one knows about it except me and my ex-husband, and he's been dead for 6 years. Nora caught the keys. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You'll freeze your ass off up there." "I've been colder." Lynette walked to a closet and pulled out a heavy winter coat, boots, and a backpack. She started filling it. Canned food, bottled water, matches, a flashlight. "Take the car," she said, nodding toward the garage. "It's registered to my cousin. If anyone runs the plates, they won't trace it to me." "I can't." "Yes, you can. And you will. Because if you get caught, I don't want it coming back on me." She zipped the backpack shut and handed it over. "Keys are in the ignition. Tank's full." Nora took the pack, feeling the weight of it. I'll pay you back. You won't, but that's okay. Lynette walked to the door, opened it. Go, before I change my mind. Nora stepped outside, then turned back. If anyone asks, I haven't seen you. Don't know where you are. Haven't heard from you in months. Lynette's voice was firm. I've been doing this job long enough to know when to keep my mouth shut. The door closed. Nora stood there for a moment, then walked to the garage. The car was a beat-up Honda Civic, 15 years old, with rust along the wheel wells. Perfect. She threw the backpack in the passenger seat, started the engine, and pulled out into the empty streets. The drive north was quiet. Too quiet. Nora kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting headlights to appear behind her. But the highway stayed empty. Dawn broke as she crossed into Wisconsin, pale light washing over snow-covered fields. She followed Lynette's directions, county roads, then gravel paths, then finally a dirt track that barely qualified as a driveway. The cabin appeared through the trees. Small. One room, maybe. Logs dark with age, roof sagging slightly. She parked behind it, out of sight from the road, and killed the engine. Silence. No traffic. No sirens. No voices. Just wind through bare branches and the distant call of a crow. Nora grabbed the backpack and went inside. The cabin was exactly what Lynette had promised. Bare walls, a wood stove, a cot with a thin mattress. No electricity, no plumbing. A camping lantern sat on a rough wooden table. She dropped the backpack, locked the door, and sat on the cot. For the first time in 18 hours, she let herself stop moving. Her body screamed at her, muscles aching, cuts burning, exhaustion pulling at her like a weight. But she couldn't sleep yet. She pulled out the laptop, fired up the generator outside, and connected to a satellite uplink she'd found in Delgado's go bag. Slow, but functional. The news had exploded. Every major outlet was running the story now. The files were being authenticated by independent analysts. Forensic accountants were tracing the money. Journalists were connecting dots. And in Washington, panic had set in. Senator Cross had issued a statement denying everything, called it a politically motivated smear campaign, demanded a full investigation into the illegal hack, but the cracks were showing. 3 of his staffers had already resigned. 2 congressional committees had announced hearings, and the FBI had raided Apex Tactical's headquarters. Nora scrolled through the coverage, reading between the lines. The machine was starting to eat itself. Allies were turning on each other. People were looking for exits. But Cross wasn't done yet. A new headline caught her eye. Manhunt underway for former Army medic in connection with data breach. Her stomach dropped. She clicked the link. Her face stared back at her. An old photo from her military days. Younger. Harder. The article laid it out. Nora Calloway, disgraced former sergeant, dishonorably discharged 8 years ago for reasons not disclosed to the public. Suspected of stealing classified data and leaking it to foreign actors, armed and dangerous. None of it was true. But it didn't matter. They were spinning her as the villain, a traitor, a criminal, and people would believe it. Nora closed the laptop, her hands shaking, dishonorably discharged. That was the lie they'd tell. The story that would stick. She'd left the army on her own terms after what happened in Syria, after she'd seen things that didn't make it into official reports, after she'd realized that some orders weren't worth following. But they'd bury that, rewrite it, make her the problem. She stood, paced the small cabin, trying to think. If she came forward now, she'd be arrested, charged, locked away while they controlled the narrative. If she stayed hidden, the story would calcify. She'd become a fugitive, a ghost, again. There was no good option, only bad ones and worse ones. Her phone, Delgado's phone, the one in the go bag, buzzed. She froze. No one should have this number. She pulled it out, stared at the screen. Unknown caller. She answered. Who is this? Sergeant Calloway. We need to talk. A woman's voice. Calm, professional. Who are you? Nora repeated. Someone who can help, if you're smart enough to listen. But I'm done listening to people who won't give me their names. My name is Dr. Kira Vaughn. I'm an investigative journalist with the Washington Sentinel, and I've been tracking Protocol 9 for 18 months. Nora's pulse quickened. How did you get this number? I have sources, good ones, and they tell me you're the person who leaked those files. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And so does everyone who wants you dead. Vaughn paused. But I'm not one of them. I want the truth. And I think you do too. The truth is already out there. No, data is out there. Numbers, emails, transactions. That's not the same as truth. People need a face, a story, someone who can explain what it all means. You want an interview? I want to give you a platform, a chance to tell your side before Cross and Apex bury you. Nora walked to the window, looked out at the forest. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only journalist who's been willing to call this what it is, state-sanctioned murder. And I've lost colleagues over it, 2 of them, both dead in the last year under very convenient circumstances. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be smart. Let me tell your story. Where are you? Chicago. I can be in Wisconsin in 3 hours. Nora's blood went cold. I didn't say I was in Wisconsin. You didn't have to. I've been tracking your movements since you left Lincoln Park. You're following me? I'm protecting you. There's a difference. Vaughn's voice hardened. Apex has a kill team 10 minutes behind me. They're using traffic cameras and facial recognition. You've got maybe an hour before they find that cabin. How do you know about? Because I have a source inside their operations. And that source just sent me your location. A pause. I can help you, Sergeant, but only if you move. Now. Nora looked around the cabin. Safe, isolated, a trap. Where do we meet? She asked. There's a state park 15 miles north, Eagle Ridge. Take the service road to the ranger station. I'll be there in 90 minutes. How will I know it's you? I'll be the one not trying to kill you. The line went dead. Nora stood there, weighing the options. Stay here and wait for Apex to find her. Run blind and hope she got lucky. Or trust a journalist she'd never met. She grabbed the backpack, threw everything in, and ran for the car. The Civic's engine coughed to life. She backed out, turned onto the dirt track, and accelerated. In her rearview mirror, the cabin disappeared into the trees. She drove fast, following the winding roads north. The forest was dense here, evergreens heavy with snow. No other cars. No signs of life. She found the turnoff for Eagle Ridge State Park and took it, the Civic bumping over potholes and frozen ruts. The ranger station appeared ahead, a small wooden building, dark and closed for the season. Nora parked behind it, out of sight, and killed the engine. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then headlights appeared. A black sedan pulled up, parked beside her. A woman got out, mid-40s, wearing a heavy coat and boots, carrying a camera bag. She had the look of someone who'd spent years chasing stories in dangerous places. Nora opened her door, stepped out, hand on the gun she'd taken from Delgado's go bag. Dr. Vaughn! That's me. The woman raised her hand slightly. No weapons, just questions. How do I know you're not working for them? You don't. But if I were, you'd already be dead. Vaughn lowered her hands. Can we talk? Preferably before we both freeze? Nora hesitated, then nodded. They went inside the ranger station. It was warmer than outside, but not by much. Vaughn set her camera bag on a desk and pulled out a small recorder. Do you mind? She asked. No recording. Then how do I... You write, like journalists used to. Vaughn smiled slightly. Fair enough. She pulled out a notebook and pen. Let's start simple. Why did you leak the files? Because people were dying. People are always dying. Not like this. Not murdered by their own government. Vaughn wrote that down. You believe the U.S. government is directly responsible. I believe people in positions of power authorized a kill program and used taxpayer money to fund it. Whether you call that the government or not doesn't matter to the victims. Senator Cross denies any involvement. Senator Cross is lying. Can you prove that? Nora pulled out the laptop, opened it, and turned the screen toward Vaughn. This is a financial transfer from a shell company controlled by Cross to an offshore account owned by Apex. $5 million, dated 3 weeks before the first kill order. Vaughn leaned in, studying the screen. Her expression didn't change, but her pen moved faster across the notebook. Why you? She asked. Why did Reaper come to you? Because I was part of the system. I saw things, did things, and I walked away before they could bury me. What things? Nora closed the laptop. Things that don't make it into your article. I need specifics. You need enough to make people care. That's what you said. So here it is. I was a medic. I saved soldiers who got sent into places they shouldn't have been for reasons that were never explained. And when I started asking questions, I got told to shut up or ship out. So I shipped out. And then? And then I spent 8 years pretending I was nobody until somebody found me and reminded me who I used to be. Vaughn stopped writing. You regret it, leaking the files? I regret that it was necessary. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. Outside, an engine rumbled. Nora's hand went to the gun. Vaughn tensed. You expecting someone? No? The engine grew louder, closer, then headlights swept across the windows. Nora moved to the wall beside the door, gun raised. The engine cut off. A door opened. Footsteps crunched on gravel. A knock. Dr. Vaughn? It's Agent Ramos, FBI. We spoke on the phone. Vaughn looked at Nora. He's with me. You brought the FBI? I brought someone who can protect you. There's a difference. The knock came again. Dr. Vaughn, I know you're in there. Vaughn walked to the door, opened it. A man stood outside. Early 50s, wearing a suit and tie under a winter coat. He had the kind of face that had seen too much and stopped caring about most of it. Agent Ramos, Vaughn said. This is Sergeant Nora Calloway. I know who she is. Ramos stepped inside, hands visible, no weapon drawn. I'm here to offer you protective custody. Pass, Nora said. Wasn't really asking. Ramos closed the door behind him. You've got half of Washington looking for you. Apex has bounties out. Even some local PD are bought off. You won't last the week on your own. I've lasted this long. By luck, and luck runs out. He pulled out a badge, showed it to her. Real, current. I'm part of a task force investigating Apex and Protocol 9. We've been building a case for months. Those files you leaked? They gave us what we needed to move, but we still need your testimony. So you can lock me up as a material witness. So we can keep you alive long enough to testify. Ramos's voice hardened. 3 federal judges, Sergeant. That's who we're bringing this case to. 3 people who can't be bought. But they need to hear from you, in person, under oath. Nora lowered the gun slightly. When? 72 hours. Grand jury convenes in Washington. You testify, we indict, and the whole thing goes to trial. And if I say no? Then Cross walks. Apex walks. Everyone walks. And you spend the rest of your life running from people who don't forget. Nora looked at Vaughn. This was the plan all along. You brought me here to hand me over. I brought you here to give you a choice, Vaughn said. Run and die, or stand and fight. Some choice. It's more than most people get. Nora turned back to Ramos. How do I know you're not working for them? You don't. But if I were, you'd be in a body bag, not having this conversation. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. This is my daughter. She's 12, loves soccer, hates math. She's the reason I do this job. Because I want her to grow up in a country where people can't get away with murder just because they have money and power. Nora stared at the photo. A girl with braces, smiling, holding a soccer ball. I'm not asking you to trust me, Ramos said quietly. I'm asking you to trust that some of us still give a damn. Silence. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Nora made her decision. 72 hours, she said. I testify. Then I'm gone. Agreed. Ramos pocketed his phone. We leave now. I've got a secure transport waiting 20 miles north. What about her? Nora nodded at Vaughn. She comes too. Witness protection until after the trial. Vaughn shook her head. I'm not hiding. I have a story to write. You'll be dead before you file it. Maybe, but at least I'll die doing my job. She looked at Nora. I'll see you in Washington. Ramos sighed. Your funeral. They left the ranger station together. The cold hit Nora like a fist. She followed Ramos to his car, a nondescript sedan with government plates. He opened the back door. Get in. Nora climbed in. The locks engaged automatically. Ramos got behind the wheel, started the engine. They pulled out onto the service road heading north. Nora watched the trees blur past, her mind racing. 72 hours. Then she'd stand in front of 3 federal judges and tell them everything, if she survived that long. "Agent Ramos," she said, "who else knows I'm with you?" "My team, 5 people I'd trust with my life." "That's 4 too many." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You think one of them is compromised?" "I think everyone's compromised until proven otherwise." "Fair point." He took a turn, accelerating. "We'll be at the safe house in 30 minutes. After that, we lock down. No communication in or out. No visitors. Just you, me, and—" Headlights flared behind them. Ramos cursed, checked the mirror. "We've got a tail." Nora twisted around. 2 SUVs, closing fast. "How did they find us?" she asked. "Doesn't matter. Hold on." He floored it. The sedan lurched forward, engine screaming. The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80. The SUVs kept pace. Ramos grabbed his radio. "This is Agent Ramos. I'm in pursuit, heading north on County Road 47. I need backup. Now." Static. He tried again. "Dispatch, do you copy?" More static. "They're jamming us," he muttered. The first SUV pulled alongside. A window rolled down. Nora saw the gun. "Get down!" Ramos shouted. She dropped as bullets tore through the car. The rear window exploded. Glass rained down. Ramos swerved, clipping the SUV, forcing it wide. But the second one was already there, ramming them from behind. The sedan fishtailed. Ramos fought the wheel, kept them on the road. Ahead, a curve loomed. Sharp. Too sharp at this speed. Ramos hit the brakes. They skidded, tires screaming. The SUVs didn't slow. The first one rammed them again, harder, and the sedan spun out. Nora felt the world tilt. Then they were airborne. The car hit the ground, rolled, and came to rest upside down in a ditch. Silence. Nora hung from her seatbelt, blood dripping into her eyes. Her ears rang. Her chest hurt. "Ramos?" she croaked. No answer. She twisted, looked at the front seat. Ramos was slumped over the wheel, unconscious, blood pooled beneath him. Footsteps crunched outside. Voices. Calm. Professional. "Check the back. Make sure she's dead." Nora's hand found the gun, still tucked in her waistband. The door beside her wrenched open. A face appeared. Tactical gear. No expression. He raised his weapon. Nora fired first. The shot was deafening in the confined space. The man dropped. She unbuckled, fell, crawled out through the shattered window. More footsteps. Running. She rolled to her feet, gun raised, and fired twice more. One man went down. The other dove for cover. Nora ran. Into the forest, through snow and underbrush, branches tearing at her face. Behind her, shouts, orders. Someone was coordinating. She kept running, lungs burning, legs shaking. A shot cracked past her head. She ducked, changed direction, kept moving. The forest was thick, dark, disorienting. She had no idea where she was going. Just away. Always away. Another shot, closer. They were gaining. Nora burst through a line of trees and found herself at the edge of a frozen lake. Ice stretched out before her, pale and endless under the moonlight. Behind her, flashlight beams cut through the forest. No choice. She stepped onto the ice. It groaned under her weight, but held. She walked faster, then ran, the ice creaking with every step. Halfway across, she heard the crack, and then she was falling. The cold hit her like a sledgehammer. Ice water flooded her lungs as she plunged through, the shock stopping her heart for a split second before survival instinct kicked in. Nora thrashed, disoriented, the darkness complete beneath the frozen surface. Her hands found the jagged edge of the hole, and she hauled herself up, gasping, choking, breaking back into the air. The ice around her groaned and splintered. She clawed forward, spreading her weight, dragging herself across the cracking surface. Behind her, the hole yawned wider. Ahead, solid ice. Maybe. Flashlight beams swept across the lake. She went through. Get eyes on the water. Nora didn't look back. She crawled, then stumbled to her feet, running again, soaked clothes already stiffening in the wind. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. Blood mixed with lake water in her mouth. The far shore was close. 30 feet, 20. She hit solid ground and collapsed behind a fallen tree, shaking violently, hypothermia already setting in. The voices behind her grew louder. They were testing the ice, finding the safe path. Nora forced herself up, stripped off her jacket, waterlogged, Useless, dragging her down. She kept moving, barefoot now after losing her boots in the water, feet going numb against frozen ground. A cabin appeared through the trees. Dark. No smoke from the chimney. She tried the door, locked. She grabbed a rock and smashed the window, reached through, unlocked it from the inside. The cabin was small, one room, abandoned for the season. She stumbled to the fireplace, found matches on the mantel with shaking hands, kindling, newspaper, logs. The match flared. She touched it to the paper and the fire caught, spreading, filling the room with light and heat. Nora collapsed in front of it, pulling off her wet clothes, wrapping herself in a moth-eaten blanket she found on a chair. The shaking wouldn't stop. Her core temperature was dropping fast. She'd seen hypothermia kill soldiers in less than an hour. She fed the fire, built it higher, pressed herself as close as she dared. Slowly, agonizingly, warmth crept back into her extremities. The shaking eased. Her thoughts cleared. She checked her body. Bruises, cuts. The stitches on her arm had torn open, but nothing broken, nothing fatal. The gun was gone, lost in the lake. The go-bag was gone too. The laptop. Everything. She was alone, unarmed, half frozen in a cabin that wouldn't stay hidden for long. But she was alive, and that meant she could still fight. Nora found clothes in a closet, men's hunting gear, too big but dry. She dressed quickly, layering everything she could find. Boots that didn't fit. Gloves. A heavy coat. In the kitchen, she found canned food. She ate standing up, not bothering to heat it, just shoveling beans and peaches into her mouth. Calories, fuel, survival. Outside, dawn was breaking. Gray light filtered through the windows. She needed to move, find a phone, contact someone who could help. But who? Ramos was dead or captured. Delgado was dead. Hastings was dead. Torres was probably dead. Vaughn. The journalist. She'd said she was heading to Washington. That was Nora's only play. She killed the fire, checked the windows. No movement outside. No sounds except wind and birds. She slipped out the back, moving through the forest, staying low, using the terrain for cover. 2 miles. That's how far she walked before she found the road. And standing beside it, impossibly, was Vaughn's black sedan. Nora froze. Vaughn stepped out, hands raised. Easy. It's just me. How did you? I followed the gunfire, then I followed the blood trail. Vaughn nodded at Nora's arm. You're bleeding through your coat. Nora looked down. Red was seeping through the fabric. Get in, Vaughn said. We need to move. Where's Ramos? Dead. I checked the crash site. Single shot to the head after the wreck. Vaughn's voice was flat. They made sure. Nora's jaw tightened. How are you not dead? I stayed back. Watched. When the shooting started, I went dark. Vaughn opened the passenger door. Now get in before they circle back. Nora climbed in. Vaughn got behind the wheel and drove, taking back roads, avoiding main highways. Where are we going? Nora asked. Somewhere they won't look. That's not an answer. It's the best you're getting until I'm sure we're not being tracked. Vaughn glanced at her. You look like hell. Feel worse. They drove in silence for 20 minutes. Then Vaughn pulled into a gas station, parked away from the pumps. Stay here. I'll get supplies. She came back with bottled water, food, a first aid kit, and a burner phone still in the package. Drink, she said, handing Nora a bottle. Nora drank. Her throat was raw, her stomach cramping, but the water helped. Vaughn opened the first aid kit and started cleaning the wound on Nora's arm. The stitches had completely torn. The cut was open, ugly. This needs a hospital, Vaughn said. No hospitals. You'll get an infection, then I'll get an infection. No hospitals. Vaughn sighed, pulled out butterfly bandages, and closed the wound as best she could. Then she wrapped it tight. You're stubborn, she muttered. I'm alive. Vaughn handed her the burner phone. Call whoever you trust, if anyone. Nora stared at the phone. Who did she trust? No one in the government. No one in the military. Not anymore. She dialed a number from memory, one she hadn't used in 8 years. It rang 4 times. Then a voice answered, cautious. Yeah? It's Nora. Silence. Then, Nora Calloway? Yeah. Holy shit, I thought you were dead. Not yet. She paused. I need help, Malik. Malik Torres, no relation to Captain Rebecca Torres, had been her medic partner in Syria. They'd saved each other's lives more times than either could count. When Nora left the army, he'd stayed in. Last she heard, he was teaching at a military medical training facility in Virginia. What kind of help? He asked. The kind where people are trying to kill me. What else is new? His tone was light, but she heard the tension underneath. Where are you? Wisconsin, maybe. I've lost track. You alone? No, I'm with a journalist. A journalist? Nora, what the hell did you do? Leaked classified files exposing a government kill program. Silence. Malik? Yeah, I'm here. Just processing. He exhaled. You always did go big. Can you help or not? Where do you need to be? Washington, in 48 hours. That's not a lot of time. I know. And you're hot. Like every agency in the country is looking for you hot. I know that too. Another pause, then, there's a VA clinic outside Madison. It's off the main grid, mostly admin staff. I know the director. She owes me. I can get you in, patch you up, maybe hide you for a day. And then? Then I drive you to Washington myself. Malik, don't argue. You need someone watching your back, and I'm not letting you die before I get to say I told you so. Despite everything, Nora almost smiled. Fine. Send me the address. Give me the burner number. She read it off. He hung up. 30 seconds later, the phone buzzed with a text, an address in Madison. Vaughn looked at her. We have a destination? Yeah. Then let's move. They drove south, crossing back into Wisconsin, sticking to county roads. The landscape was flat, endless fields of snow broken by clusters of trees. Nora watched the passing scenery, her mind turning over the last 72 hours. Everything that had gone wrong. Everyone who'd died. You regret it? Vaughn asked quietly. Leaking the files? All of it. Nora thought about Reaper, bleeding out on that table. About Delgado, charging back into gunfire. About Hastings and Ramos and everyone else who died because of what she knew. No, she said finally. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Even if it kills you? Especially then. Vaughn glanced at her. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. They reached Madison by late afternoon. The VA clinic was a small brick building on the edge of town, surrounded by empty parking lots and chain-link fencing. Vaughn parked in the back. This it? Yeah. They went inside. The lobby was empty except for a receptionist behind bulletproof glass. Can I help you? The woman asked, bored. I'm here to see Dr. Amari, Nora said. She's expecting me. The receptionist picked up a phone, spoke quietly, then nodded. Through the door on your left. The door buzzed. They went through. A woman waited in the hallway, late 40s, wearing scrubs, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. You Nora? She asked. Yeah. You look worse than Malik said. Come on. Dr. Amari led them to an exam room, gestured for Nora to sit on the table. Your friend stays outside, she said to Vaughn. I'm not... She stays outside or you both leave. Your choice. Nora nodded to Vaughn. It's fine, wait in the lobby. Vaughn hesitated, then left. Dr. Amari closed the door and turned to Nora. Strip. Let me see what we're working with. Nora peeled off the layers of borrowed clothing. Her body was a map of damage. Bruises, cuts, burns from the explosion at the compound. Dr. Amari worked in silence, cleaning wounds, restitching the arm, checking for fractures. You're lucky, she said finally. Nothing's broken. But you've got a mild concussion and you're borderline hypothermic. You need rest. I need to be in Washington in 2 days. You need to not die. Doctor. Amari handed her antibiotics and painkillers. Take these, all of them, and drink water, lots of it. Thanks. Don't thank me. Malik's the one you owe. He called in every favor I had to make this happen. She paused. He also said to tell you he'll be here in 4 hours. You can sleep in the back room until then. Nora dressed, took the pills, and followed Dr. Amari to a small room with a cot and a space heater. Lock the door, Dr. Amari said. Don't answer for anyone but me or Malik. The door closed. Nora sat on the cot, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. She lay back, closed her eyes, and was asleep in seconds. She woke to knocking. Nora, it's Malik. She sat up, disoriented, her body screaming in protest. The room was dark. She'd slept for hours. She opened the door. Malik stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that made people trust him instantly. He looked older than she remembered, grayer, but his eyes were the same. Hey, he said. Hey. He pulled her into a hug. She stiffened, then relaxed into it. You look like you went through a wood chipper, he said. Feel like it too. He stepped back, studied her face. Seriously, Nora, what did you get yourself into? Long story. We've got time. It's an 8-hour drive to Washington. She told him. All of it. The hospital. Reaper. The files. Protocol 9. The bodies. Malik listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You really pissed off some powerful people, he said, finally. Yeah. Good. That surprised her. Good? I never liked the way you left. Always felt like you got screwed. If this is your way of getting even, I'm here for it. It's not about getting even. Isn't it? She didn't answer. Malik checked his watch. We leave in 30 minutes. I've got a route plan that avoids checkpoints and major highways. It'll take longer, but it's safer. What about Vaughn? The journalist? She's coming too. She's already in my truck. They left under cover of darkness, Malik driving, Vaughn in the passenger seat, Nora stretched out in the back seat, trying to sleep. The miles blurred together. Pennsylvania, Maryland. The roads getting busier as they approached the capital. By the time they crossed into Washington, D.C., the sun was rising. Malik pulled into a parking garage in Arlington, killed the engine. This is as far as I go, he said. From here, you're on your own. Malik? Don't. You've got a job to do. Go do it. He handed her a phone. That's clean, untraceable. Use it if you need backup. Nora took it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're not out of this. She climbed out. Vaughn followed. Malik drove away, and they were alone. Now what? Vaughn asked. Now we go public. Vaughn pulled out her own phone. I've got contacts at every major outlet. We can set up a press conference within the hour. No press conference. They'll shut it down before we get 2 words out. Then what? Nora thought fast. Live stream. Multiple platforms. Can't be stopped once it's out there. Vaughn smiled slowly. I like the way you think. They found a coffee shop, set up in a back corner, and went to work. Vaughn pulled out a laptop, connected to the shop's Wi-Fi, and started setting up accounts on every streaming platform she could find. Ready? She asked. Nora nodded. Vaughn hit record. My name is Nora Calloway, Nora said, looking directly into the camera. I'm a former Army medic, and I'm here to tell you the truth about Protocol 9. She laid it out. Every detail. The kill orders, the money, the names, Senator Cross, Apex Tactical, the cover-ups. She didn't hold back, didn't soften it. She told them everything. When she finished, Vaughn stopped recording and uploaded the video simultaneously to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Within minutes, it was spreading. Within an hour, it had 1 million views. Within 2 hours, it was everywhere. The world was watching. And in a glass tower overlooking the Potomac, Senator William Cross watched too. His phone rang. He answered. Sir, we have a problem. I'm aware. The video's gone viral. We can't contain it. Then don't contain it. Discredit it. How? Call her a liar, a traitor, mentally unstable. I don't care, just make it go away. But it wouldn't go away. By that evening, 3 congressional committees had announced emergency hearings. The FBI had reopened its investigation into Apex. The Attorney General had called for a special prosecutor. Cross's allies started distancing themselves. His staff resigned in waves. And at 9 p.m., federal marshals arrived at his home with an arrest warrant. He stood in his foyer, surrounded by lawyers, watching his world collapse. Senator William Cross, the lead marshal said, You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. They read him his rights, cuffed him, led him outside. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Cross said nothing, but his face said everything. Nora watched it all from a safe house in Virginia, Vaughn beside her, Malik in the doorway. "You did it," Vaughn said quietly. "We did it," Nora corrected. On the screen, Cross disappeared into a federal vehicle. The news anchor was already speculating about more arrests to come. Nora's phone buzzed, the clean one Malik had given her. Unknown number. She answered. "Yeah. Sergeant Calloway, this is Director Ellen Marsh, FBI. I'd like to speak with you." "About what?" "About what comes next, about protection, about testimony." "I already testified. The world heard it." "That was public opinion. I'm talking about a courtroom, under oath, in front of a grand jury." Nora closed her eyes. "When?" "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., federal courthouse. Can you be there?" "I'll be there." "Good, because we're not done yet. Cross is just the beginning. We have 14 more arrests planned, Apex executives, government officials, even a federal judge. Anyone else I should know about?" Marsh hesitated. "There's one more name on the list. Someone you know." "Who?" "Dr. Victor Hale, Chief of Trauma Surgery at Ravencrest Medical Center." Nora's blood went cold. "Hale? He was on Apex's payroll, medical consultant, helped them fake autopsy reports for targets who were supposed to die of natural causes." The room tilted. Hale. The man who'd dismissed her, undermined her, treated her like she didn't exist. He'd been part of it all along. "We're bringing him in tonight," Marsh said. "I thought you should know." "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. Apex still has operatives in the field. They'll come for you. Let them." "Sergeant, I said let them. I'm done running." Marsh was quiet for a moment. "We'll have a security detail outside the courthouse, armed, professional, but you need to stay out of sight until then." "Understood." The line went dead. Nora set the phone down. "What is it?" Vaughn asked. "Hales, the surgeon from Ravencrest. He was working for them." Vaughn's eyes widened. "The one who tried to override you?" "Yeah. He knew who you were. He knew what you'd done. And he still tried to stop you from treating Reaper." Nora's hands curled into fists. "He was trying to kill him, right there in the trauma bay, and I stopped him." The realization settled over her like a weight. She'd been right all along, about Hale, about the hospital, about everything. And everyone who'd dismissed her, who'd treated her like she was nobody, had been either blind or complicit. "I want to be there when they arrest him," she said. "That's not a good idea," Malik said from the doorway. "I don't care. I want to see his face." Vaughn pulled up her phone. "Arrest is scheduled for 11 p.m. at his home in Lincoln Park. Can we get there?" "If we leave now." They left. Malik drove, Nora in the passenger seat, Vaughn in the back. They reached Hale's neighborhood just before 11. A quiet street, expensive homes, manicured lawns. Federal vehicles were already parked outside his house. Unmarked cars. Agents moving into position. Malik parked a block away. They watched. At exactly 11 p.m., the agents moved in. The front door opened. Hale appeared, wearing a suit even at this hour, looking calm. Too calm. The lead agent showed him the warrant, started reading the charges. And Hale smiled. It was a small smile. Smug. Like he knew something they didn't. "What's he doing?" Vaughn whispered. Nora's instinct screamed. "Something's wrong." Hale reached into his jacket. The agent shouted, "Hands! Show me your hands!" But Hale wasn't going for a weapon. He pulled out a phone, pressed a button, and every screen in the surrounding federal vehicles went dark, simultaneously. "No," Nora breathed. The agents' radios died. Their phones. Everything. Electromagnetic pulse. Small scale. Localized. And then the real Apex team appeared. They came from everywhere. Rooftops, alleys, parked cars. Suppressed gunfire tore through the federal agents. They dropped before they could return fire. Hale walked calmly to a waiting SUV and climbed in. It pulled away, disappearing into the night. "They knew," Vaughn said, horrified. "They knew the arrest was coming. Someone tipped them off." Nora's mind raced. Marsh, the director, she's the leak. How do you know? Because she's the only one who knew the exact time and location. Malik started the engine. We need to leave. Now. No. Nora opened the door. Nora, they think they won. They think they're untouchable, but they're not. She got out, walked toward the scene. Bodies littered the street. Federal agents, dead or dying. One was still alive, gasping, bleeding out from a chest wound. Nora dropped beside him, her hands moving automatically. Pressure on the wound. Elevate. Check airway. Stay with me, she said. Help is coming. The agent's eyes focused on her. Who? I'm a medic. Just stay with me. She worked fast, using what she had. Her jacket for pressure, her belt for a tourniquet. The agent's breathing stabilized slightly. Sirens wailed in the distance. Real ones this time. Police. Ambulances. Nora stood, hands covered in blood, and looked at the empty street where Hale's SUV had been. He'd escaped, but he'd made a mistake. He'd shown his hand, revealed that the corruption went higher than anyone thought, and Nora was going to burn it all down. When the police arrived, she was still standing there, waiting. I need to speak to whoever's in charge, she said to the first officer. Ma'am, you need to step back. My name is Nora Calloway, and I'm the person who just exposed Protocol 9. Get me your commanding officer, now. 20 minutes later, she was in an interrogation room at the local precinct, facing a deputy chief who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Sergeant Calloway, he said, you're either the bravest person I've ever met or the dumbest. Probably both. FBI Director Marsh is looking for you. Director Marsh is compromised. His eyes narrowed. That's a serious accusation. I know, and I can prove it. She laid it out. The timeline, the leak, the fact that only Marsh knew about the arrest. The deputy chief listened, his expression darkening. If you're right, he said slowly, then we've got a traitor at the highest levels of federal law enforcement. I'm right. He stood. Stay here. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. He left. Nora sat alone in the room, her mind spinning. If Marsh was dirty, then the entire investigation was compromised. Every arrest, every piece of evidence, all of it could be tainted, and tomorrow's testimony might be a trap. The door opened. A man stepped in, late 50s, gray suit, the kind of face that had seen everything and believed nothing. Sergeant Calloway, I'm Assistant Director Frank Garrison, FBI Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs? That was fast. We've had our eye on Marsh for weeks. Your accusation just confirmed what we suspected. He sat across from her. Tell me everything. She did. Garrison listened, taking notes, asking pointed questions. When she finished, he leaned back. If Marsh is working for Apex, she'll try to eliminate you before you testify tomorrow. I know. Which means we need to move you. Tonight. Somewhere she can't find you. Where? There's a federal facility in Quantico. Maximum security. We'll put you in protective custody until the grand jury convenes. And how do I know you're not working for them too? Garrison smiled grimly. You don't, but you're out of options. So either you trust me or you walk out that door and see how long you last on your own. Nora met his eyes. Saw something there she recognized. Exhaustion, anger, the look of someone who'd been fighting the same fight for too long. Fine, she said. Let's go. They left through a back exit. Garrison flanked by two agents Nora didn't recognize. They put her in an armored SUV and drove south, lights off, taking side streets. Nora watched the mirrors. No tails, no pursuit. Maybe they'd actually gotten lucky, or maybe they were driving straight into another trap. At Quantico, the facility was exactly what Garrison had promised. Concrete and razor wire, armed guards, checkpoints. They took her to a secure room in the basement, no windows, reinforced door. A cot, a toilet, and nothing else. Someone will bring you food, Garrison said, and in the morning, we'll transport you to the courthouse. What about Marsh? She's being brought in for questioning as we speak. By tomorrow, she'll be in custody. And Hale? Still at large, but we'll find him. He left. The door locked behind him. Nora sat on the cot, alone in the silence. She'd done it, exposed them, set the dominoes falling, but the last domino hadn't fallen yet. And she had a feeling it was going to be the biggest one. The door opened. Garrison stood there, his face pale. We have a problem, he said. What kind of problem? Senator Cross. He just posted bail. Nora's blood turned to ice. How? He's charged with multiple counts of murder. Someone pulled strings. A federal judge we didn't know was compromised. Cross walked out of custody 20 minutes ago. Where is he now? We don't know. He's not at his home, not at his office. He just vanished. Nora stood. He's coming for me. We don't know that. Yes, we do. He's lost everything. His career, his reputation, his freedom. The only thing left is revenge. Garrison's jaw tightened. Then we lock this place down. No one in or out. But even as he said it, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And somewhere above them, alarms started to scream. Garrison grabbed Nora's arm. Move! Now! They ran down the corridor, red emergency lights strobing overhead. Behind them, she heard gunfire, shouting, the sharp crack of breaching charges. How many? Nora asked. Too many. They rounded a corner. 2 agents stood guard at a secure door, weapons drawn. Sir, we're under attack, one said. Unknown hostiles, military-grade equipment. They came through the north fence. How long until backup arrives? 10 minutes. Maybe less. We don't have 10 minutes. Garrison turned to Nora. There's a tunnel system beneath this facility. Cold War era. Most people don't even know it exists. Where does it lead? Out. That's all that matters. He nodded to the agents. They opened the secure door, revealing a stairwell descending into darkness. Garrison pulled out a flashlight. Stay close. They went down. The stairs were concrete, narrow, the air growing colder with each step. Above them, the sounds of battle intensified. Automatic weapons, explosions. They hit bottom. A tunnel stretched ahead, concrete walls slick with moisture, pipes running along the ceiling. This way, Garrison said. They ran through the tunnel, footsteps echoing. Nora's lungs burned, but she kept pace. Behind them, a door burst open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. They're in the tunnels, someone shouted. Garrison cursed. Faster! They sprinted. The tunnel branched. Garrison took the left fork without hesitation. The beams behind them grew brighter, closer. A shot rang out. Concrete exploded beside Nora's head. Garrison turned, fired back. 3 controlled shots. One of the lights went out, but more were coming. The tunnel opened into a junction chamber, multiple passages branching in different directions. Which way? Nora asked. Garrison checked a marking on the wall. East. Should come up near the old armory. They took the eastern passage. It sloped upward, the air fresher. Ahead, a ladder led up to a hatch. Go, Garrison said. I'll hold them here. You can't. I said go. He turned, taking position at the mouth of the tunnel. Nora climbed. The ladder was slippery, her hands barely gripping the rungs. She reached the hatch, shoved it open, and pulled herself up into cold night air. She was in a wooded area, trees all around, the facility visible in the distance, lit up like a war zone. Below, she heard Garrison fire. Once, twice, then silence. Nora's chest tightened, but she couldn't go back. She ran into the forest, branches whipping at her face. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The woods were dark, disorienting, but she kept moving. She needed distance, cover, a way to regroup. A road appeared ahead. 2 lanes, empty in both directions. Nora stumbled onto the pavement, trying to orient herself. Headlights appeared in the distance. Coming fast. She stepped into the middle of the road, waving her arms. The vehicle, a pickup truck, slowed, then stopped. An older man leaned out the window. You okay, miss? I need a ride. Please. He looked at her, disheveled, bleeding, desperate, and something in his expression shifted. Get in. She climbed into the passenger seat. He drove. Where you headed? He asked. Washington, the federal courthouse. That's 2 hours from here. I'll pay you, whatever you want. Don't want your money. He glanced at her. You in some kind of trouble? Yeah. Legal trouble or the other kind? The other kind. He nodded, as if that made perfect sense. Well, I'm heading toward D.C. anyway. Drop you wherever you need. They drove in silence for a while. Nora watched the side mirror, checking for pursuit. Nothing. Maybe she'd actually gotten away. Or maybe they were just waiting. "You're that woman on the news," the man said suddenly. "The one who exposed all those government people." Nora didn't answer. "Thought so. My daughter sent me the video, said you were brave." He paused. "I think you're crazy, but brave too. Your daughter might be the smarter one." He smiled faintly. "She usually is." They reached the outskirts of Washington as dawn broke. The man dropped her 2 blocks from the courthouse. "Thanks," Nora said. "Don't thank me. Just don't get yourself killed." She got out, watched him drive away. The courthouse loomed ahead. Federal building, granite and glass, armed guards at every entrance. Nora crossed the street, her mind working through the logistics. She had no ID, no credentials, no way to prove who she was. But she had her face. And right now that was the most recognizable thing in America. She walked up to the main entrance. A guard stepped forward. "Buildings closed to the public until 9 a.m. My name is Nora Calloway. I'm supposed to testify this morning." The guard's expression changed instantly. He spoke into his radio. "I've got her. Calloway's here." Within seconds, more guards appeared. Federal marshals. They surrounded her, not hostile, just cautious. "Ma'am, we've been looking for you all night," one said. "Where's Director Garrison?" "Dead or close to it. There was an attack at Quantico." "We know. Reports just came in, 20 casualties." Nora's jaw tightened. 20 because of her. "Director Marsh?" she asked. "In custody. Being held in a secure location." "And Senator Cross?" The marshal hesitated. "Unknown. We lost track of him after he posted bail." "Then he's here, or close. We've swept the building. It's secure." "No building is secure if the people protecting it can be bought." The marshal's expression darkened. "Come with us." They led her inside, through metal detectors and security checkpoints, down corridors lined with courtrooms. They stopped outside a heavy wooden door marked Grand Jury Room 3. "Wait here," the marshal said. Nora waited. Inside she could hear voices. Lawyers. Officials. The machinery of justice grinding forward. The door opened. A woman stepped out, late 60s, wearing a judge's robes, with the kind of face that had seen every lie the world had to offer. "Sergeant Calloway." "Yes, Your Honor." "I'm Judge Patricia Kendrick. I'll be presiding over today's proceedings." She studied Nora. "You've had quite a week." "That's one way to put it." "Are you prepared to testify?" "I am." "Then let's get started." Nora followed her inside. The grand jury room was smaller than she'd expected. 2 rows of jurors, faces neutral, watching her with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. A prosecutor stood, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Please state your name for the record," he said. "Nora Elizabeth Calloway." "And your occupation?" "Registered nurse, formerly senior medical sergeant, U.S. Army." "Thank you. Sergeant Calloway, can you tell us about your involvement with the individual known as Reaper?" Nora took a breath. Then she told them. All of it, the hospital, the device, Protocol 9, the deaths. She didn't hold back, didn't soften it. She showed them the scars, the stitches still fresh, the evidence written on her body. The jurors listened. Some took notes. Others just stared. When she finished, the prosecutor nodded. "Thank you, Sergeant. The grand jury will now deliberate." "How long will that take?" Nora asked. "As long as it takes." They led her to a waiting room, small, windowless, a single chair and a table. She sat and waited. An hour passed, then 2. The door opened. Judge Kendrick stepped in. "The grand jury has reached a decision," she said. Nora stood. "And?" "Indictments have been issued for 14 individuals, including Senator William Cross, Dr. Victor Hale, and former FBI Director Ellen Marsh. Charges include conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, obstruction of justice, and treason." Nora felt something release in her chest. "Treason?" "The evidence you provided shows that Apex Tactical was operating on behalf of foreign governments while conducting domestic assassinations. That crosses into treason." Kendrick paused. "You did it, Sergeant. You brought them down." "Not all of them. Cross and Hale are still out there." "They won't be for long. Every law enforcement agency in the country is looking for them. There's nowhere to hide." Kendrick left. Nora sat back down, her hands shaking. It was done. The indictments were real. The evidence was solid. The truth was out. But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. The door opened again. This time, it was Vaughn. "You're alive," Nora said. "Barely. Malik got me out of the city when things went sideways." Vaughn sat beside her. "I watched your testimony. It's already streaming live. Every major network picked it up." "Good." "More than good. You just became the most important witness in the biggest political scandal in 50 years. Vaughn pulled out her phone, showed Nora the headlines. Grand jury indicts Senator Cross in Protocol 9. Scandal. Former FBI director arrested for treason. Apex Tactical Solutions faces federal RICO charges. Nora scrolled through them, feeling the weight of it all. "It's over," Vaughn said quietly. "You won." "It's not over until they're all in custody." As if on cue, the door burst open. A marshal stood there, weapon drawn. "We need to evacuate, now." "What's happening?" Nora asked. "Bomb threat, credible. We're clearing the building." They ran, down hallways, through emergency exits, out into the morning sun. The plaza in front of the courthouse was chaos. People streaming out, police cars everywhere, bomb squad vehicles pulling up. Nora stood on the steps, scanning the crowd, and then she saw him. Senator William Cross, standing across the street, watching the chaos with a small, satisfied smile. Their eyes met. He didn't run, didn't hide. He just stood there, waiting. Nora started toward him. "Sergeant, wait," a marshal called, but she ignored him. She crossed the street, pushing through the crowd. Cross didn't move. When she was 10 feet away, he spoke. "Quite a performance, Sergeant." "It's over, Cross. You're done." "Am I?" He gestured to the courthouse. "I don't see any bombs, do you?" "You called in a fake threat." "I bought myself time. That's what powerful people do. We buy time. We buy influence. We buy outcomes." His smile widened. "You really thought you could bring me down? A nobody nurse from a third-rate hospital?" "I'm not a nobody." "Yes, you are. You're a footnote, a curiosity. And when this is all over, when the lawyers and the appeals and the motions are done, I'll still be here, and you'll be forgotten." "You're wrong." "We'll see." A black SUV pulled up beside him. The door opened. Hale stepped out. Nora's blood ran cold. "Dr. Hale," Cross said pleasantly, "I believe you know Sergeant Calloway." Hale looked at her with the same dismissive expression he'd worn at Ravencrest. The nurse who couldn't follow orders. "Orders to let a patient die," Nora said. "Orders to maintain operational security." Hale's voice was cold. "But you never understood that, did you? You always thought you were special, smarter than everyone else, better." "I was better. That's why Reaper trusted me and not you." Hale's expression twisted. "Reaper was a liability, just like you." He pulled a gun. Nora didn't think. She moved. Years of training kicked in. She closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun went off. The shot went wide. She drove her knee into his stomach. He doubled over, and she ripped the gun from his hand. Cross was already moving, trying to get back in the SUV. Nora aimed the gun at him. "Don't." He froze. Police were running toward them now, shouting, weapons drawn. "On the ground," they yelled. "Both of you." But Cross raised his hand slowly. "Officers, this woman just assaulted me." "Save it," Nora said. She kept the gun on him until the police arrived, then set it carefully on the ground and stepped back. They cuffed Cross, then Hale. A detective approached Nora. "You okay?" "Yeah." "That was either really brave or really stupid." "I've been hearing that a lot lately." They took Cross and Hale away in separate vehicles. Nora watched them go, feeling something settle inside her. It was done. Really done. Vaughn appeared beside her. "You just disarmed a man and captured a U.S. senator on live television." "What?" Vaughn pointed. News cameras were everywhere, all focused on them. "Great," Nora muttered. "Are you kidding? You're a hero. Again." "I'm not a hero, I'm just someone who did what needed to be done." "That's what heroes are." Nora didn't have an answer for that. Over the next 48 hours, the dominoes fell. Senator Cross was formally charged with 12 counts of conspiracy to commit murder. His bail was revoked. He was held without bond. Dr. Hale was charged with accessory to murder and obstruction of justice. His medical license was suspended pending investigation. Director Marsh turned state's evidence, agreeing to testify against Apex executives in exchange for a reduced sentence. 14 Apex operatives were arrested in coordinated raids across 6 states, and the evidence, all of it, was entered into the federal record. Nora watched it unfold from a hotel room in Virginia, Vaughn and Malik keeping her company. "They're calling you the ghost of Ravencrest," Malik said, reading from his phone. "The invisible nurse who brought down a government conspiracy." "I hate that name," Nora said. "Too bad, it's trending." Vaughn's article published 3 days later. Front page of the Washington Sentinel. The woman who wouldn't disappear. It told Nora's story from beginning to end. The Army, Syria, Ravencrest, Protocol 9. It was honest, unflinching, and it went viral. Within a week, Nora received offers for book deals, movie rights, speaking engagements. She turned them all down. "Why?" Vaughn asked. "You could make millions." "I don't want millions. I want my life back." "You can't go back to Ravencrest, not after everything." "I know." "So what are you going to do?" Nora thought about it, about who she'd been before all this, about who she'd become. "I'm going to keep being a nurse," she said finally, "just not there." A month later, Nora stood outside a small clinic in rural Montana. The building was old, one story, paint peeling. A sign out front read Clearwater Community Health Center. The director met her at the door, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and capable hands. "You must be Nora," she said. "I am." "We saw your testimony. Hell of a thing you did." "I just told the truth." "That's more than most people manage." She held out a hand. "I'm Dr. Sarah Brennan. Welcome to Clearwater." Nora shook her hand. "Thanks for hiring me. I know my resume's complicated." Complicated is one word for it. "But I've read your file. The real one, not the news version. You're a damn good nurse, and out here that's all that matters." They went inside. The clinic was small but clean. Exam rooms, a minor surgery suite, a pharmacy. "We serve 3 counties," Dr. Brennan explained. "Ranchers, farmers, people who can't afford the hospitals and billings. We see everything from broken bones to heart attacks." "Sounds familiar." "Good, because we're short-staffed and overworked. Think you can handle it?" Nora smiled. "I can handle it." She started the next day. The work was hard. Long hours, low pay. Patients who couldn't always afford treatment. But it was honest, real, and for the first time in 8 years, Nora felt like herself. One afternoon, 3 months in, she was stitching up a rancher who'd gotten kicked by a horse when Dr. Brennan poked her head in. "Nora, you've got a visitor." "I don't know anyone here." "Says his name is Malik." Nora looked up, surprised. "Send him in." Malik appeared, grinning. "Nice place you got here. What are you doing in Montana?" "Visiting. Making sure you didn't die of boredom." He looked around. "This is really where you ended up?" "Yeah. After everything. After taking down senators and exposing government conspiracies, you're in the middle of nowhere stitching up cowboys." "Yep." "Why?" Nora tied off the last stitch, cleaned the wound, and bandaged it. She turned to Malik. "Because this is where I'm needed. Not because I'm famous, not because I'm a symbol, just because I'm good at what I do." She paused. "For 8 years I tried to be invisible. I thought that was the same as being safe. But it wasn't. It was just hiding. And now? Now I'm exactly who I am. No more. No less." Malik smiled. "Good. You deserve that." They talked for a while, caught up, shared stories. Then he left, and Nora went back to work. That night she sat on the porch of the small house she rented on the edge of town. The sky was huge out here, stars scattered like diamonds. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vaughn. Cross-convicted on all counts. Sentencing next month. Prosecutors asking for life without parole. Nora typed back. "Good." Another text appeared. Hale pleaded guilty. 20 years minimum. Even better. You did it. You actually did it. Nora stared at those words. She had done it. Not because she was special. Not because she was fearless. but because when the moment came, when she had to choose between staying silent and speaking up, she'd chosen to speak. And the world had listened. Another text from Vaughn. What are you doing out there in Montana anyway? Nora smiled and typed, my job. She set the phone down and looked out at the stars. For so long, she'd thought power came from being loud, being seen, being impossible to ignore. But real power, she'd learned, was quieter than that. It was knowing what you stood for. It was doing the right thing even when no one was watching. It was being exactly who you were, without apology, without compromise. The people who dismissed her, Hale, Cross, all of them, had thought she was weak because she was quiet, unimportant because she didn't demand attention. They'd been wrong. The weakest person in the room was never the one doing the work. It was the one who needed everyone to know how important they were, and Nora Calloway had never needed that. She just needed to matter, and she did. To the patients she saved, to the people she helped, to the truth she'd fought for. She stood, stretched, and went inside. Tomorrow, there would be more patients, more work, more lives to save. And she'd do it the same way she always had, quietly, competently, without fanfare. Because that's what real strength looked like. Not a symbol, not a hero, just a nurse who refused to disappear. And that was enough.